Greetings, history viewers. Today we reveal how a ruthless warlord transformed into a great pacifist. Picture a conqueror who decimated 100,000 souls, letting rivers run crimson with their essence. Yet now imagine this exact same tyrant building magnificent hospitals and spreading eternal peace. His legendary name was Ashoka the Great, the Mauryan emperor who forged a living hell on earth. However, what devastating trauma could completely shatter a tyrant's mind and rebuild him into a saint? The year is 260 BC. The devastating conflict of Kalinga has finally ended. Emperor Ashoka stands completely frozen on a high, majestic hill, staring down at his ultimate victory. Yet there is no joyful cheering today. A terrifying silence blankets the devastated landscape. Below him lies a tragic mountain of 100,000 fallen souls covered in endless dark shadows. 150,000 completely innocent people are dragged away as broken, weeping captives. According to ancient historical texts, the dire river literally flowed with heavy crimson essence. Instead of joyfully celebrating his greatest conquest, the invincible warlord drops his jeweled sword. He collapses into the crimson-stained earth, completely shattered by the horrifying scale of tragic ruin. Ashoka trembles and weeps uncontrollably, deeply disgusted by the terrifying monster he has become. The desperate, weeping cries of grieving mothers echo endlessly inside his fractured and agonizing mind. A truly profound psychological trauma strikes the emperor, breaking his iron will into pieces. He stares deeply at his trembling, dirt-covered hands, realizing no amount of water can wash this guilt. If you held absolute power over existence, could you possibly survive the weight of such immense guilt? To truly understand this epic mental collapse, we must travel back to the tyrant's ruthless origins. Long before this day, Ashoka was known as Ashoka, meaning Ashoka the extremely fierce. He was a proud prince of the grand Mauryan Empire, driven by a dark and unstoppable ambition. He was never truly meant to be the rightful king, but his endless hunger for the golden throne consumed his soul. Ancient historical records clearly state he mercilessly vanquished 99 of his own royal brothers. He waded through a devastating river of betrayal just to secure his absolute grip on power. Always wearing flawless and magnificent silk robes, the young emperor ruled his kingdom through pure terror. He ruthlessly ordered the construction of a horrific prison known throughout the land as Ashoka's Hell. This massive, terrifying dungeon was beautifully designed on the outside to lure innocent people in. But deep inside, it was a dark chamber of endless horrors, filled with boiling copper vats and sharp iron spikes. Ancient dark legends whisper that the king personally visited demons to learn their brutal, torturing arts. Relentless punishers shattered bones and brought absolute ruin, while the emperor watched with an evil smile. His ultimate grand ambition was to conquer the entire Indian subcontinent by sheer force. For many years, his massive imperial armies fiercely crushed every small kingdom that dared to resist him. However, there was one wealthy and incredibly proud region that fiercely refused to bow down to the tyrant. The fiercely independent Republic of Kalinga stood strong, defending their ancient glorious freedom. Their unwavering defiance deeply enraged Ashoka, pushing his military strategy to the absolute edge. In the year 261 BC, he launched an apocalyptic and devastating invasion. The massive Mauryan war machine mobilized, darkening the horizon with countless soldiers and weapons. Many thousands of gigantic armored war elephants marched forward, making the solid ground fiercely tremble. Emperor Ashoka rode at the front lines, his magnificent golden armor shining beneath the storm clouds of war. He ruthlessly commanded his vast legions to show absolutely no mercy to anyone who crossed their path. The proud Kalinga warriors fought incredibly bravely, but were hopelessly outnumbered by the endless horde. It was not just a standard military battle, it became a systematic and ruthless devastation. The Imperial troops finally breached the city walls, unleashing a terrifying wave of endless destruction. They totally vanquished the weary soldiers, but then turned their heavy iron blades upon the defenseless villagers. Entire vibrant neighborhoods were burned to ashes, while desperate families screamed in absolute terror. The great historian scholars tragically record that the heavy smoke of ruin choked the entire region. Emperor Ashoka stood on his war chariot, watching the civilization he had completely erased. He fully expected to feel the ultimate, godlike triumph of a powerful and victorious king. Yet, as the thick smoke finally cleared, the genuinely horrifying reality of his actions struck him. There was absolutely no glory in the tragically fallen souls of thousands of innocent children. There was absolutely no honor in the weeping widows desperately searching for their lost husbands. The majestic victory he chased for so many years suddenly felt like a heavy, poisonous curse. His cruel and violent heart, once forged in the extremely dark fires of ambition, slowly began to shatter. This single devastating moment finally broke the endless cycle of violence in his fractured soul. The terrifying demon of war died right there, suffocating deep within the ashes of Kalinga. Returning to the crimson-stained hill, Emperor Ashoka realizes the true ultimate cost of his empire. He finally sheds his heavy golden armor, stripping away the incredibly painful burden of his past. Instead of punishing the prisoners, the emperor falls to his knees and asks for absolute forgiveness. He powerfully declares that the heavy drums of war will be silenced forever, replaced by the drum of truth. This incredibly dramatic choice marks the birth of Ashoka the Righteous, the enlightened Buddhist king. The ruthless warlord officially disbands his absolutely terrifying armies of destruction. He subsequently orders the immediate and complete demolition of the horrific Ashoka's hell prison. The merciless punishers are dismissed, and the dark chambers of suffering are completely sealed forever. His fiercely hardened imperial generals stand in utter and absolute shock at their master's sudden mercy. They simply cannot believe the fierce conqueror is surrendering his ultimate military power. However, Ashoka's mind is completely resolute, guided by a magnificent newly found inner light. He peacefully trades his royal golden crown for the incredibly humble and simple teachings of the Buddha. Seeking incredibly deep spiritual redemption, the emperor sits peacefully with barefoot monks. He patiently learns the sacred and beautiful path of Dharma, focusing on universal compassion. The extremely violent royal hunting trips are permanently replaced by quiet religious pilgrimages. He firmly decides that the true ultimate conquest is not of territories, but the conquering of human hearts. To spread his beautiful vision of peace, Ashoka initiates a massive architectural campaign. He brilliantly commands highly skilled artisans to carve massive sandstone pillars across the entire realm. These breathtaking, towering monuments are deeply engraved with his royal edicts of absolute non-violence. Written in simple local languages, the profound messages preach religious tolerance to absolutely all. One incredibly famous pillar declares that all men are his children, deserving absolute love and profound care. The emperor publicly apologizes for the immense suffering he caused during the Kalinga devastating war. This is undeniably rare in human history, a reigning supreme monarch admitting his absolute grave mistakes. He brilliantly and peacefully transforms his military empire into the world's very first magnificent welfare state. Massive portions of the vast royal treasury are now spent on uplifting the absolute poorest citizens. Emperor Ashoka builds massive hospitals equipped with ancient medicines and highly skilled physicians. Surprisingly, he also establishes the world's very first veterinary clinics for injured animals. His profound compassion extends to all living creatures, banning the unnecessary hunting of wildlife. Dedicated workers tirelessly dig fresh water wells and plant incredibly shady trees along the hot roads. These massive and wonderful public works provide comfort and safety for weary travelers and merchants alike. However, Ashoka's peaceful revolution firmly refuses to be confined within the Indian borders. He successfully sends dedicated Buddhist missionaries to faraway lands like Egypt and ancient Greece. His own son and courageous daughter travel across the dark ocean to bring the sacred teachings to Sri Lanka. Because of this single incredibly reformed tyrant, Buddhism transforms into a massive global religion. The truly terrifying drums of war are finally silenced, replaced entirely by the gentle chanting of monks. The Indian subcontinent experiences a golden era of unprecedented peace and prosperity. Blessed future generations grow up never knowing the terrifying devastation their grandparents survived. Ashoka perfectly balances absolute political authority with a deeply spiritual morality.
Indeed, Your Majesty.
He magnificently rules through Dharma, proving that love and justice are far stronger than sharp iron swords. Even deeply modern historians remain absolutely stunned by this radical psychological shift. Never before or since has a grand conqueror willingly stopped expanding at the height of his absolute power. The devastating, dark legacy of Ashoka is slowly erased and replaced by a holy legend. His incredibly famous lion capital sculpture stands today as the official emblem of modern India. The beautiful wheel of Dharma, representing his moral law, sits proudly on the Indian national flag. It is a beautiful constant reminder that redemption is always possible, no matter the terrible sins. The warlord who created an ocean of sorrow eventually healed the wounds of millions of innocent people. His truly epic journey from pure darkness to absolute light continues to inspire the entire modern world. Emperor Ashoka demonstrated that true greatness lies in the absolute courage to completely change oneself. He walked through a terrible, burning hell of his own making to discover the paradise of inner peace. The truly heavy ghosts of Kalinga were finally put to rest beneath the shadow of his stone pillars. While history usually remembers the ruthless conquerors, it truly reveres the noble peacemakers. What would the entire ancient world have become if he had willfully chosen to continue his brutal devastation? His magnificent decision altered the spiritual landscape of Asia for the next 2,000 long years. Every Buddhist temple today carries a subtle echo of that absolutely devastating battlefield awakening. We must undeniably never forget the profound and painful cost of the peace he ultimately created. Ashoka's story is a beautiful testament to the resilient and ever-changing nature of the human spirit. The heavy iron sword of conquest was permanently buried, and the beautiful lotus of wisdom finally bloomed. He left behind a magnificent empire, not built on fear, but firmly constructed upon profound mutual love. As the golden sun finally sets over the ruins of his empire, his immortal message shines brighter than ever. The once brutal warlord died a holy saint, teaching all humanity the profound, ultimate lesson of compassion. His absolutely remarkable transformation remains the most inspiring paradox in human history. The legendary Ashoka the Great forever proves that even the darkest soul can eventually find the light. Was his transformation a genuine spiritual awakening, or a political trick to keep absolute control? Can the absolute darkest, unforgivable sins be washed away by a lifetime of good deeds? Share your thoughts below. If you truly enjoyed this dark historical journey, please subscribe, like, and share the video for more epic tales.